Today we'll be working on lesson 5-2b, which is also factoring, but this time we're going to be working on sum and difference of cubes and not sum and difference of squares. Now before we move on, I'd like to write down the equations in front of you so you would see them. So a cube minus b cube, if you have anything like this, you would start by taking a minus b, and this would be your first factor, and the other factor is going to be the square of the first term, which is a squared, plus a times b plus b squared. And that's it. You just box that rule and try to memorize it. So that's the first rule for the sum or the difference of two cubes. Now let me give you a simple question before we move on to number 1. For example, if I give you x cubed minus 8. Now x cubed can be written as x to the power 3 minus 8 can be written as 2 to the power 3. So every time they give you something like that, if you have a difference and you think you can write this as cube and this as cube, then you can apply the difference of cubes. Let's apply the rule. It says the first term minus the second term. So the first term is x minus the second term, which is 2. That's going to be your first factor. Now the other factor is going to be the square of the first term, so x to the power 2. And then, so this is the square of the first term plus the first and the second term multiplied together. So write plus. Now the first term is x, the second term is 2, so x times 2 is just 2x. And then it's b squared plus b squared, so put plus, and then the second term, which is 2, you just square it, so 2 to the power 2 would be 4. So the final answer is x minus 2 and x squared plus 2x plus 4. Now I hope this simple example was helpful. Now let's try to move on to number 1. I'll do number 1 and then pause the video for you to do number 2 on your own. So in this question, let me make some room. Okay, in this question, you have to decide what is your a cube. And as you can see, your a cube is going to be 8x to the power 3. And your b cube is going to be 27. So you need to ask yourself, can you write 8x to the power 3 as something to the power 3? Let's see. If you cube, the cubic root of 8 would be 2. So you can write this as 2x all of it to the power 3. Now let's see if it makes sense. 2 to the power 3 is 8, and x to the power 3 is this x to the power 3. So basically you can think of a as just being 2x, whatever is inside here. Now think of 27. Can you write 27 as a cube of something? Now 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, so yes, you can write it as 3 cubed. So b is just going to be 3. So you have to apply the rule. As you can see, you can write it as a cube of something. So a cubed minus b cubed would be a minus b. So we have decided that a is 2x and b is 3. You see that? So a is going to be whatever's inside here, and b is going to be this one over here. Now, let's move on to the second factor. You have a squared, so you can just put the 2x inside. Then you have a times b, so 2x is going to be inside the first parentheses, and 3 is going to be inside the second parentheses. And b squared, it means b, whatever b is, you have to square it. So now let's try to simplify this. So it's going to be 2x minus 3. 2x squared means you have to square the 2, so you get a 4, and you square the x, so you get x squared. 2x times 3 is going to be 6x, and 3 to the power 3 to the power 2 would be just 9, and that's going to be your final answer. Now go ahead, pause the video, and try to do number 2 on your own. Now let's think of this one as well. Now, can you write it as a cubed minus b cubed? You can think of a cubed as the first one, which is 216x cubed, and you can think of b cubed as the 343. Now, on your calculator, try to cube root 216, and what are you going to get? Remember, to cubic root, you go to math, and then number 4. So if you do that, then the cubic root of 216 is going to be just 6. and you can write it as 6x. So as you can see, you can write this as 6x to the power 3. So 6 to the power 3 is 216, x to the power 3 is x cubed. So then a can be just whatever's inside the parentheses, which is 6x. Now 343, go to math number 4, and cubic root of 343 would be just 7. So you can write it as 7 to the power 3. In this case, 7 is b. So here a minus b, it would be 6x minus 7. Remember, the rule says you have to square the first, multiply the first term and the second term, a and b, and then square b. So this is going to be a 7. So 6x minus 7, square of 6x squared is going to be 36x to the power 2. 6x times 7 is going to be a 42x, and 7 to the power 2 is going to be 49, and that's going to be your final answer. Now, it would be helpful if you follow those steps, but with time, as you get better, then you don't have to do it all over again. Like, you can just write down the rule. Now, let's move on to the second page. Now, we're going to move on to the sum of cubes. Now, it's basically the same concept, but this time we are adding two cubes instead of subtracting them. So the rule is going to be a cubed plus b cubed. So the first plus the second, this is going to be the first term. Then you square the first minus these two multiplied together. Then you add the square of b. So let's try it together. Now a cubed is going to be the first one, which is 125x to the power 3. Now b cubed is going to be the second one, which is 27y cubed. Now think, can you write this as a cube of something? You can write it as 5x to the power 3. Let's see, 5 to the power 3 is 125. Now x to the power 3 is going to be x cubed. So a can be just 5x, whatever is inside the parentheses over here. Now can you write 27y cubed as a cube of something? Yes, you can write it as 3y to the power 3. Now let's double check. 3 to the power 3 is 27. Y to the power 4 is y cubed. So b in this case is going to be whatever is inside the parentheses. So b is going to be 3y. So a is 5x and b is going to be 3y. Now the rule says square the first term. So remember, the first term is going to be 5x, which is a, and the second term is going to be 3y. So the rule says square the first term, so square 5x, multiply the first term and the second term together, then plus square the second term. So 5x plus 3y. Now if you square the first term, you will get 25x squared. If you multiply the first and the second, you get 5 times 3 is 15, and then you put xy, so you copy just the xy. 3y to the power 2 is going to be 9y squared, and that's going to be your final answer. Now, it would be a good time for you to pause the video and do number 4 on your own. So, a cube is going to be 64x to the power 3, and b cube is going to be 125. Can you write this as a cube of something? Yes, because 4 times 4 times 4 is 64, so you can write it as 4x to the power 3, and 125, you can write it as 5 to the power 3. So a is going to be just 4x, and b is going to be 5. So here you put 4x plus 5, you square the first, multiply the first and the second, and square the second term. So copy 4x plus 5. 4x to the power 2 is 4 times 4, which is 16, and x squared. 4 times 5 would be 20, and don't forget to copy the x, and 5 to the power 2 is 25, so that's going to be your final answer. Now let's move on to the second or the third part of this lesson, which is factor by grouping. Sometimes you're going to be given, this is like 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. When you have 4 terms or more, you do factor by grouping. It means you try to take two things together, like a cubed minus 4a squared, and you take the second two together, which is 3a minus 12. So you try to group each two together. Now let's look at this. This is a to the power 3, and this is 4a to the power 2. Is there anything in common between them? Remember, you always take the one with the lower power. So you take a to the power 2 as the GCF. So you have a to the power 3. It means you have a times a times a. And you took a to the power 2 out of it. It means you took 2 of those a's. So what's going to be left? Just a. So remember, this is going to be 3 a's. And by putting an A2 out, it means you took 2 of those A's. What's going to be left is just one A, and that's why you write an A inside. Now minus. This is going to be 4A to the power 2. You took the A to the power 2 outside, so what's going to be left is just minus 4. Now, look at this one. What's common between 3A minus 12? A is not in common because this does not have an A. So 3 is going to be in common. So take 3 on the outside. So 3A divided by 3 would be just an A. 12 divided by 3 will be just a 4. Now always try to FOIL to make sure that your answer is right. So 3 times A is 3A. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Now let's try this one. A squared times A. Remember, you add the power, so it's going to be A to the power 2. A to the power 3, I mean. A to the power 2 times negative 4 is going to be negative 4A squared. So that would be it. Now, is there anything common? Is there anything in common between those? Yes, A minus 4 is in common, so write it down. And then in the other factor, you write this and this together, so it's going to be A squared plus 3. And that's going to be your final answer. So now would be a good time for you to pause the video and try number 6 and 7 on your own. So, group those together and those together. So what's common between those? I only see an x. So if you take an x out of this, only one x will be left. If you take x out of this, 3y is going to be left. Now plus, let's see what's common between them. I see one y, so this y and one of those y's is going to go away, so y is outside. Now 2 is also in common, so this 2 will go away. And instead of the 6, if you divide it by 2, you're going to get left with a 3. So the first one, only an x is left. The second one, plus 3, and this y is left, so 3y. So as you can see, there's this in common, so you take x plus 3y. And then the other factor is going to be this one plus this one, so x plus 2y. Now, number 7. So again, you take those two together and those two together. Now let's see what's common. I can see that there's one A in common, or two A's in common. So if you take two A's out of here, only A will be left and all of this will be gone. So if you take A2 outside, and 9 and 6, what's common between them? I can tell that 3 is in common, so 9 divided by 3 is a 3, and 6 divided by 3 is a 2. So 3 is in common. So what's going to be left of the first one is just 2a1, as you can see, minus, and the other one you're going to be left with negative 3b. You can just erase this one if you want to. Now let's look at the other one. I can see that there's a b in common, so all of this b will be gone, and only one of this b's will be gone, so there's a b in common. What else? Let's look at the numbers 4 and 6. 4 and 6, there's a 2 common between them. So 4 divided by 2 would be a 2, and 6 divided by 2 would be a 3. So what's going to be left of the first one? I can see that there's a 2a that's left, so 2a. I can see that there's a negative, so minus. There's a 3 left, and 1b that's left, so minus 3b. As you can see, 2a minus 3b is in common. And 3a squared plus 2b is in common. So that's going to be your final answer. So this is what you do every time you have more than 3, like 4 or more terms. You try to factor them by grouping. Now this is the lesson. Make sure that you understand it very well. We'll do more practice tomorrow in class, and make sure to come to class with a lot of questions to ask me. See you tomorrow.